Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the RangerRob Country Living Podcast. And it's another glorious day. In fact, here it's a sparkling day. I have to get my sparkling day in. So today we actually have a extra guest here from Spring River Homestead. And I know I butcher your first name every time, so I'm going to let you guys say your first names for me. I know Nikki, of course. Is it Kanan?
I'm Kanan.
Canaan. Okay.
Long A.
I said it right. I keep wanting to say Canaan or something like that. But anyway, nice to have you. You guys are down in eastern, well, actually south of us, eastern Oregon. Is it considered eastern or yeah? And so yeah, you guys have
more like
more
South
adventures.
Central.
Figured so. And of course, before we get going, I want to make sure and say hello to our host, which is Amy from DragonFly Farms. How are you? And then we got John and Debbie Sternberg from Hobby Pig Homestead. I said it right.
Hi, everyone.
So today is our day of, I consider, the Spring River people more just kind of like friends or people that are kind of just like us homesteading. So today's kind of a show of talking about some of the things going on in each other's homesteads. And so I know if you guys are kind of like me, I don't know, I'm kind of going to start out a little bit and then I'm going to hand it over to you guys. But it's getting like September and starting to think about changes, thinking about things I don't want to do anymore, thinking about good processes and bad processes, thinking about things that just drove me crazy all summer. I'm sure there's certain things you guys all had like, God, this has got to change kind of thing. So that's where I kind of got motivated to do a show like this. And I know, because I watched some of Spring River's videos, that you guys are already kind of thinking about things you're going to change and things you're going to do different or things you're modifying. And I know John and Debbie and Amy both, you guys just got Idaho pasture pigs. And so somebody's volume's a little bit high, by the way. We're getting a little echo. Anyway, so I know, I think we're all on the same page where it's kind of like, all right, I'm going to be making some changes here because I'm not doing this next year. So that's kind of where we're coming from. So I'm going to start with just a few things of ours, and then I'm going to start passing everything over to you guys. But the one thing that's really getting me is piglets. We were surprised with piglets. I don't feel like we were set up quite right to have two sets of piglets. And so I know the biggest thing we're thinking about for September on is how could we do this better so we don't have the same problems last year. The other thing is we definitely have to get a barn. That's on our agenda. This is things that we want to do new. And then for us, dealing with the harvest. And I'm kind of sure that you guys have a lot of these kind of things, but these are just the things that we're doing here just as examples. And then also things that we're going to be changing over here in our homestead is we're going to get rid of probably 50% of our hydroponics just because it's just too much to do. We're going to change our hydroponic towers to flowers. And then last but not least, we're going to probably modify how we do our farrowing and do our fencing for piglets. So that's our things that we're changing. So I got this all started, and I'm going to start off with our guests, I think. And you guys just recently did a video about some of the things you modified or some things you were selling off, getting rid of certain animals, things like that. What are some of the big things this summer based on either economy or processes or time have you guys started changing at your homestead?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I can. The big thing is, I don't know how it was for everybody else, but I hatch a lot of birds, and nobody was buying. So we've cut a whole bunch of our flocks in half, chickens, turkeys. We got rid of our ducks, and I've cut some of my quail back, just trying to basically not outproduce anything that I might end up having to put in the freezer, because that's where some stuff is going. And the feed price is just astronomical. I mean, we buy a pretty good volume and get a good discount, and it's still $20 a bag. I don't know what everybody else is paying for feed for birds right now, but it's high.
We're paying 21.
It's crazy.
So you're, and that's why now I remember the video I saw you guys do about this subject. Is you said you've noticed that you're not getting as many buyers. What do you think what do you think's causing that?
I think it comes down to one. We had a lot of people during the beginning of the pandemic that were buying birds that, quite frankly, were killing them because they just didn't know what they were doing, and they just didn't have good luck with it the first time around, and so they're not trying it a second time. And the people that are comfortable raising birds already have flocks in place. And the feed price is scaring a lot of people away. I mean, I'm paying $20 for layer, but the chick starter is like $25 and up per bag.
Wow.
And that's a lot. If you're going to kill the birds by accident, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned something that we're having. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say 2 years ago, like Nikki said, you had a lot of people rush in and buy birds and buy equipment and buy, kind of panic buy. And some failed, some didn't. But as soon as everything started opening back up, people kind of went back to their old habits. And so they're like, we'll be all right. It's no big deal.
So I got to ask, because I know that on our side of the fence over here, we've been talking about buying bulk feed. Are you buying bulk feed and actually getting a discount, or is it about the same?
With my rabbit feed, I buy by the pallet. This time, usually I get $1 off a bag. This time they gave me $2 off a bag if I would buy 2 pallets, which I can store. I know a lot of people can't, but we can. So that brought my feed for my rabbits down to like just under $20 a bag. But our poultry feed, we're still only buying by about the half ton at a time. And I don't like to store as much chicken feed because it collects rodents more than the rabbit feed does. Yeah. So we're sale hopping. I mean, I'm checking ads every week, and if we can find a sale on poultry feed, we're loading up.
Yeah, so one of the big problems we're having, and Amy and John and Debbie, we're all kind of doing some research here, trying to find out, since we all have Idaho pasture pigs, how we can buy bulk food at a discount. And so we're not actually having very much success. I mean, we can buy it by the tonnage. We can buy it and get 5% off at one company, but yet John and I can go in with a senior discount or a military discount and get 10% off, but they won't add them together. So it's like, that doesn't really make sense to try to get bulk if you can't get the discount that's worthwhile, So
Wilco will go as high as 12%.
Say that again?
Wilco will go as high as 12% with bulk pig feed.
Nice. So, yeah. So we're looking at those issues too. So,
and then it comes down to storage. If you buy in bulk, you have to store in bulk. So there just hasn't been there's no simple solution.
No.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's why we're trying to get a barn built. So, Amy, what's some of the big things that you're having this year that definitely is catching your eye, that's got to either change or be modified or a better process?
I made notes. So one of them is rabbit breeding season. My daughter breeds rabbits, and we got started in about April this year. And next year we're going to do our last round of breeding earlier, because breeding when we did, maybe it was the end of May, but anyways, breeding when we did, we're going to do earlier because it left my daughter taking care of all these grow outs in the hottest part of the year. And she knew that going into it, but she just got these rabbits, wanted to get a litter in before summer, before, the bucks went sterile because of the heat. But that left her having to cart rabbits into the air-conditioned tack room and back again and do all the cleanup, 2, 3, 4 hours extra of work during the summer. Hardworking kid, really hardworking kid. So our rabbit breeding will be different next year.
So you want to do it earlier next year? Is that right?
Yeah, we want to not deal with grow outs and only have our handful of breeders to mess with during the hottest part of the year because rabbits don't do good in the heat. They need a lot of extra care. So we want to be done with all of our breeders, just take care of the breeders, have everybody else in freezer camp by the time summer hits.
Gotcha. And what's basically the kind of rabbits you guys have?
Rex.
Say again?
Rex.
Rexes?
REX.
And what do you folks have down there, Nikki?
Oh, I have 4 different breeds. So I do Harlequins. I've got some Triantas, some Silver Martins, and some Americans.
Beautiful.
Gotcha. Cool.
Nice.
And so while we're talking about when to feral, when do you try to do your feraling? Well, I don't know if you call it feraling with rabbits, but do you try to do that earlier in the year?
It's kindling with rabbits. I actually will run mine all the way till the end of June.
Okay.
Most of my rabbits are pretty adapted to heat. We just run some fans and some misters down the middle of the barn, and they've done fine.
Nice. What's your high temps in the summer?
We've been up to 105 this year.
Okay. We had some 130. We had like a week of 113. It was killer.
Yeah,
Wow.
We did last year, and they made it through. You've got to dump those water bottles a couple times a day and keep the water cool enough to keep them drinking. But Rex are a funny breed. I know people who breed them, and they're not as heat tolerant as some other ones.
Yeah.
Okay, Elijah, I got to ask, you guys probably know, what does he mean by NG whole grains?
I was going to ask.
It's probably a breed, a brand, isn't it?
Could be.
You guys are my rabbit experts. I don't
know. I mean, it could be natural grocers. It could be
non-GMO.
I don't know.
Yeah. Elijah, can you elaborate a little bit more on that last comment here I got here on the screen? NG whole grains. I'm not sure what that means, but we'll try to address that. I'm sure one of these two have dealt with some of this, but Aimee, you had more on your list. You said you made a list.
I did make a list. And most of it is now, everybody remember and give us grace because this is our first year. This was the year that we were setting up our homestead. August 15th made the first year we've been here. So everything was a learning opportunity. So I got rabbit breeding season. I'm still trial and error in my mealworm farm. Dustin has been gracious enough to build me a second system for that. So I'm still having trouble with my naughty beetles, my mealworms. And we got the garden in this year, and we had good water systems set up for the garden, but not for my flower garden. And so there was several times I was like, I'm just gonna let my flowers die. I'm sick of this. I'm just gonna let them all die, because I was hand watering my flowers still, even though the food garden was automated. So my flower garden has to have a drip system next year, or I'm not going to grow flowers. I'm just not going to.
I think anything, if I had to hand water this year, it was one of those, I started out with great enthusiasm, and as the summer started going on, it's like, I'm getting to a point going, you're just going to die. I'm done with you.
Yeah. And then each week I would get all these compliments from my milk customers. Your flowers, they're so wonderful. I'm like, well, crap. Now I can't let them die, can I? And then the last one on my list is we need to install a gate from the area where the goats and the pig lives to the barn, so we don't have to walk all the way around. Because every night
process problem there.
Processes, and that's really, I could have summarized like that, but it wouldn't have been nearly as funny if I just said processes. But every night when it's time for the goats to go to bed, you open the gate and Etta runs and the goats follow her all the way around to the barn. And really it's putting a gate in, it would make it 2 feet instead of going all the way around. So, but that's one of my complaints too, is this is our second year here, but we have new animals, and it's processes that are just driving me nuts. It's like you go to feed the pigs, and I'm just bringing these up as examples, and I'm going to get John and Debbie in a minute here, but I'll take a scoop of food,
go all the way to the end to some of the paddocks, get them fed, walk all the way back, scoop some more foods, go all the way back. Then we do half scoops for the babies, go all the way back there and stuff. And,
You know,
so what's that, John? Go ahead. I'm waiting for you to get me because I do have more to add to this.
I just told him don't.
You know, if you put a second gate on the other side, you can cut your running around in half.
Well, yeah, we understand that. That's one thing. We have a guy coming out to do estimates on gates. Second is once we get a barn in, then I'm going to use my gorilla cart, and then I can fill up all the foods I want for all the paddocks at one time, take the gorilla cart with that food and already dispensed, and just go from paddock to paddock to paddock to paddock.
Why can't you
and
do that
would be done.
now?
What's
Why
that?
do you need a barn to do that?
A what? Oh, my gorilla cart.
Yeah, why don't you do that now? And why do you need a barn to do that?
Oh, well, on top of the barn, we want to also improve our hay, how we store hay, and how much, because it seems like I can only have 1 or 2 bales of hay on the premises because I just don't have any place to store it. Luckily, we have really good weather right now, so it's no big deal. But in a couple more, another month or so, that's going to really change. So these are just processes I want to get done and doing better for next year. Or in the pig's case, I wouldn't mind getting some of it done now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I get why you're getting the barn. What I was asking is, why don't you use your cart to feed them now?
Well, there is a reason behind that why I'm not doing it now is because we're using the gorilla cart for hauling around hay right now. So I'm actually going to be buying another gorilla cart. So once I have my second,
Oh my!
so it's like it's a constant battle for trying. I don't know if you guys have gorilla carts, but those things are awesome. And
yeah, we got
it seems
one.
like they're always using them for everything. And it's like every time I go for the gorilla cart, someone's using it or it's full of something. And so it's like, well, why don't we get another gorilla cart? Yes.
This one right here.
Yeah.
That's great to work your tools in too.
John saying, hey, it's good exercise. Well, that it is. So, and of course, I'm sure that, Sprague River folks down there, you guys have been experts down there for years on there. So you don't have these problems, do you?
Not really.
Okay, we still like you.
We have spent a lot of money
And time.
buying equipment, and Nikki's been here 9 years on this place, and I've been here almost 8. And then we had, we were 10 years in Mississippi doing homesteading type stuff, a little bit different. We didn't expand too much till we got here, but we have a tractor, we have a quad, we have a cart for about everything you could want, because we just constantly invested back into it. So we pretty much now have all the equipment, all the big toys to really kind of do everything.
That's awesome.
I think my problem has been, since we got kind of new animals like the IPPs, we didn't know what we didn't know we needed. and so as time has gone on,
anytime you change is that way.
What's that? Say that again.
Anytime you change or add, it's always going to affect something else. That's the way it works.
Yeah, that's what we're definitely learning. And John and Debbie, you guys, this is your first year too, setting up this homestead. So what are some of the things that you want to do better or realize halfway through the season has been driving you crazy?
The water source. We all have the same water source problem. This ground out here is so hard and rocky, and there's no water
out to the paddock.
We have 2 places for water, and they're up in front of the house and on the side of the house. And our pigs are clear halfway down the yard. So that's one thing we want to fix. And the other thing we were doing is
making more paddocks.
Yeah, we got to make more paddocks.
Us too. So yeah. I can't believe that's the only thing you've had going on is a water. If you're like me, you just get one hose and put like 4 spigot ends on it, and then you just
Yep.
add 4
That's
more
what we're
spigot
doing
ends
now.
of that, and then pretty soon you've got 16 coming from the same hose.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, so I don't know if you ever, for those that have been over here, I've got hoses going for miles and electric
Here
cords.
too.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous. But, so that's why we brought the Sprague River folks over, because they've been at this for a couple of years now. So they're just laughing at us. But
I'll tell you, Rob, when we first got here, we had the same thing. We had a small house that had a spigot on the front and spigot on the back. And one of the first things we did, I think it was the first spring that I was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the first year that Nikki lived here, the wellhead was down like 300 feet from the house, and she would have to basically, because we didn't have power either, she was literally hauling a wheel generator out to the water pump, firing up the generator to pump water on an above ground hose 300 something feet down to the house
To fill
Wow.
a cistern.
to fill a cistern, or to wash clothes. It was it was a 30-minute wash cycle. It took you an hour and a half to get set up and take down.
Oh man.
So she did
You
that
guys
for a
have
year.
solar?
We're on solar now.
We are now, yeah.
But one
We are
of
as
the
well.
one of the things we did is we mapped out initially where all of our barns were going to go and everything else. And I ran a trencher for 3 days, and we rented a trencher and we trenched lines. It took me 3 days to do it, to get them all done, because it was real rocky and you had to go real slow. And we had to put it below freeze line or frost line. But it took me 3 days to trench every line throughout the property. And then we started adding extra buildings for rabbits and birds and everything else. And now we're looking back going, well, geez, a 4th day we could have put in a whole bunch more water. But we have the same thing. We have hoses, for the garden and everything else. We string hoses everywhere else because we went beyond what we initially thought for water.
And that's with six hydrants
Yeah.
plus the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
You never have enough water where you think you're going to
you
need
never
it,
do.
no matter what you think you're going to do.
Yeah.
The plan changes the minute all the water's in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I got to ask you, what do you guys do in the winter when you deal with freezing water on your animals?
Well, so we, outside of the rabbits, because they're kind of different, I'll tell you, for the goats, chickens, anything else, we have small buckets or anything else, and they're all rubber, so that when they freeze, I can take them outside, flip them over, and stomp on them and break all the ice out of them, and then refill them. So we do that probably once or twice a day, depending on the temperature.
With
So,
the rabbits, I'm good down to about 12 or 14 outside before my bottles start to freeze in the buildings.
Wow.
But
all your rabbits
we
are indoors?
regularly get below that. So it's a game of, I fill them 8 to 12 ounces depending on the rabbit, what I know they're going to drink before it freezes, and do it multiple times a day. Because getting ice out of water bottles is horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are times that we switch it off, that we have a fire in the house. We've got 3 buckets of rabbit bottles
Fine.
thawing inside the house that we run hot water in or whatever else, and we're playing the game, going out, coming back, going out, coming back, where maybe I'm running back and forth in and out, and Nikki's changing bottles out. We've done that. We've seen 30 below here at the house, so you just manage as you can. It sometimes becomes an all-day adventure, but it's just what you do.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that's really driving me crazy. I'm going to hand it over to the other 2 hosts in a minute here, but it just seems like I'm spending way too much time for processes like that, where you walk out and you think you're just going to change the water out for your animals, and something's wrong. Something's out of place. Something broke. A pig gets out, stuff like that. I'm trying to get rid of these problems. So it's like, at least when I go out, I know it's going to only take me a half hour to an hour to get my chores done instead of 3 hours. And so that's the kind of things that I want to fix this year really bad. And so I'm sure, and I've got a feeling that my other 2 hosts here are kind of going through some of the same things I am, is these things like walking around a building, like you were saying, Amy, is like, it's like every day you go, I've got to fix this. I got to fix this.
I put a gate in. Yeah.
Yeah. So what, do you have anything else on your list that you're, just those three things, or what are some things really irritating you this year
Me?
besides the animals? Any of you?
Something that I keep hearing everybody except for Nikki and Kanan saying it is processes. But, and now Rob, you're not going to like this, but I don't think that will ever go away where the unexpected things come up, because I think that's just living on a homestead, that you'll find something that you did not suspect. But and in summary, we all keep talking about processes. You know, we want to refine our processes. But I'm really glad Nikki and Kanan are on, because listening to you guys, it gives, I hope, it gives the rest of us hope that yes, you will keep growing and eventually you'll get it, you know, the way you want it, and then just keep adding on. So I'm really thankful for you guys, because at least for me, you've given me a lot of hope.
Agreed.
Yeah, that, and I'm always looking to streamline anyway, so
Sure.
anything to make the process shorter.
It's going to take a lot of repetition. I mean, it's, if you process your own animals, you know, the first, and we were just talking about, we do chickens right now. Since we've mentioned we're downsizing a lot of our birds, we go through, you know, the setup to tear down all the way done. We did, I think, 8 chickens in 2 hours, because we have our plucker set out and we have all our equipment. And so we've got it down to a process. So it takes us about 15 minutes average from a chicken from the cage to the cooler, plucked,
Nice.
eviscerated, everything else. Nikki said she had she joked yesterday, I think.
No, it was this morning. I had a Facebook memory that said I was so excited that we had done 8 chickens in 4.5 hours 11 years ago.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, I don't have that kind of time now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But again, you know, Nikki teaches a rabbit class on meat rabbits and everything. And I show people how to process a rabbit. So when Nikki and I double team it, we can take a rabbit from the cage to the cooler in about 5.5, 6 minutes.
Where can I sign up for that class?
Yeah, me too.
I probably won't do one again until spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
but
through your website, or no, I'm dead serious. Where do you do that class at? Do you do it online, or
we typically do it here at the house. We do it in person typically.
Okay.
But I mean, we have like 50 videos on our YouTube channel, plus we have some other stuff on our memberships that are, you know, we try to, it's like how to butcher and how to part out and things that some people are going to find it really offensive.
Sure.
You know, to just show that. So
Amy,
we got
I
to kind
see
of
a road trip coming.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
They're only what are you guys, 3 hours from us?
Yeah, about 3.
Yeah, about 3.
Yeah. Do
But
you have a Patreon?
Go down.
What's that?
Go ahead.
You talked about membership. Do you have a Patreon account?
No, we just do
Patreon,
it through
however you
YouTube.
say it? Okay.
Yeah, we
I
just do it
gotcha.
through YouTube.
All right.
But, you know, when we first did rabbits, you know, I avoided it, honestly, in the beginning because I just couldn't get my mind around it. My father-in-law finally showed me his way of doing it. And then by background, I'm an engineer. So after 700 or 1,000 rabbits over the last 8 years,
Wow.
you know, it's down to where I really don't have to think about it anymore, but it just takes time and repetition. The hard part of homesteading is, even though we've done things here, we've done it for 8 years, every year we get a little bit faster putting hay away. You know, we put up 10 to 12 ton of hay with 2 people in a tractor, and we can, you know, we'll put up a ton in 30 minutes maybe, because we have a system that we've now go forth. You know, it's fast, it's efficient, because we've done it over and over and over.
The big thing to remember is don't jump from change to change. So if you make a change to fix a problem, give it time to make sure that you're absolutely sure that the change actually fails or succeeds. Too many people try something and like a week later, they're like, this isn't working enough. Well, you've just not adapted to the change fast enough yet. Give it a couple months. If you still think it's a bad idea or not quite where you're at or wanting to be at, then make the tweak. Don't be too quick to make changes because otherwise you're chasing your tail and you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
That's so wise.
So actually, it's kind of funny when I set you guys up to come on the show today. I didn't think about how you had many more years in doing what you're doing than we have. So this actually turned out really well. Because but an important thing is like we actually, our channel, we're trying to get people to start moving towards being more self-sufficient and trying to do this stuff. So I kind of love this show because you're looking at people who have just started out or just getting their homesteads going. Some have had a couple more years, a little bit and stuff. And then we have basically 2 seniors that can kind of tell us.
We've been thinking about all this stuff for like 20 years.
Yeah. And so what's really cool is I'm getting out of it is like, all right, yeah, our stories sound like stories you already had. And so it's kind of cool to hear the fact that you say, well, yeah, we went through that. Look what we had to do with our hoses and our water. And now it's 8 years later, and it's like we got it mastered in a sense. So it's really actually quite nice to have you guys here. I didn't even really think about that when I brought you on the show for this. And so this has worked out really nice, having people with maybe over a decade of experience as opposed to us here. So and it doesn't matter what age you're talking about. I'm not as I don't think I'm as old as John. He's pretty old, but but the point is any
I
age
think you're older than John, Rob.
I know.
Nice try though.
Get the audience kind of how old is Rob? Anyway, so the big point is all ages are here. We have all kinds of generations, so it's really cool that I don't care how old you are. Get started. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to laugh about it. And not all the time, but most of the time you're going to laugh about it. And then you're going to find a better way to do things. And then get a community like us where we can throw stuff at each other and get new ideas. And I think, I don't know about you guys, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion down there. Do you find it... Do you have all the manpower you need to get the things you want to get done? Or do you find it frustrating sometimes that you don't have enough help?
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of people, friends and different folks say, oh, I'd love to do this. And we've made a couple of people offers of you bring in an RV and we will teach you what we know for the extra labor. And every single time they get scared and back off. I mean, I would love to have a couple 20, 30-year-old fellas or something helping with fencing or, somebody to help with the gardens, but it's tough.
So have you ever got anybody take you up on your offer?
No, not yet.
Oh, bummer. It's like, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's hard to get a lot of people excited to come work your farm from dusk to dawn because that's typically where we are. We'll take it easy, like today. Today was a light day for us, but I still worked. I have a part-time job in the mornings. After that, we started processing chickens, and it was a process to where I was at the table here, and I was parting out chickens that we butchered 3 days ago. Mm-hmm. I was parting those out. As soon as I took like the wings and legs off, Nikki came over, grabbed that bowl and went over and started canning those. And then I parted them out in all the extra pieces, and then we swapped. So when she was at the table, I was doing dishes. And today was a light day, but we still canned 2 canner loads, and we still have chores morning and night. And we take an extended lunch around noon, 2 o'clock, just because it's hot usually, and it's like 100 degrees. You're not going to do a lot outside, but we work till dark every day.
It's hard to get people interested. The thing that we found is most people want to come out. They're interested in doing what they want to do, right? So I had a girlfriend who was thinking about coming out, but she hates goats and she doesn't like chickens. So she only really wanted to mess with the garden and the rabbits. And it's like, but one, that's a very closed view of what happens around here. And, you know, if I'm going to take the time to teach somebody, and I need help everywhere, you know, what am I getting out of this other than teaching you how to do two things, and I'm still having to hustle and do everything else.
Right.
And it's hard to find anybody who's interested in really coming and learning everything. And we kind of are in an interesting time, I think, where, I mean, I've had people email us asking if we do internships and that kind of stuff, but they want to work like 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. And it's like farming
That's
doesn't
not farm life.
That ain't farm
That ain't gonna work.
We start at 6:30 and end at 10 o'clock at night some days. And that's just, I mean, sometimes we get to stop at 8, but sometimes you go out for the night feeding and a goat has busted a horn, or somebody's in labor and needs help, or a rabbit has escaped. You know, there's all these things that happen, right? A homestead is the ultimate expression of chaos theory, is what I've always thought. So eventually things are going to go wrong. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to have to, I just want the fairy tale, right? Of I get up, I collect my eggs, I pull my vegetables, and we're good. And it's like, there's so
They
much
just want
more to
Instagram
it.
farming.
Yeah.
This ain't
Yes.
Instagram farming.
No mending fences or.
Well,
So
Yeah,
when
I
you
mean,
when you do your training, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to tell a story, but go ahead.
He's full of stories.
I'm
Go ahead.
full of
Just
something.
so, the question I have is, when you go to train somebody, do you have them there for a whole week or two? What is your process on that?
When we do rabbit classes, it is a full day Saturday and half a day on Sunday. We start at like 9 o'clock in the morning and we end at 4. And it's a lot of, I send you home with like a whole booklet of stuff, because I don't expect people to get everything and keep notes. And everything's got like, it'll tell you if there's a corresponding video that also covers it on YouTube. So if you get home and you have questions, and we go on over everything from breed selection to housing. It's a lot of information. And I get a lot of questions after the fact, as you can probably imagine, where you can't take everything in at once.
Yeah.
But honestly,
So do you
I've
do
had
that
people that want to come out.
And you do that for the goats as well?
I haven't done a goat class yet.
Oh, okay.
I've had some interest, but a lot of people. We're in that kind of niche, right, where homesteaders convince themselves that they are so tied to the homestead that they can't ever leave for anything. So
Right.
it's very hard to get people to come down for a weekend class. And I'm not going to teach for 2 hours. You know, if you're going to take the time, I'm going to take a weekend. But we all do that, right? Where we convince ourselves that, oh, we can't leave. You know, there's no one to watch the farm, no one that will do it our way. And we can. And you can set things up to get away. So it's really hard to get people to come out and do classes.
So anybody want to address John Pearson's question here? That do you have anything that? Yeah, is it anything you have raised or have raised that you find more trouble than it is ultimately worth?
Yeah.
Potbelly pigs.
Yep.
Cootie coons.
For us, ducks.
Yeah, we
I've
live in the
heard that
desert.
a lot. Yeah,
I
I've heard
love
that from a
ducks,
lot of
but-
people.
Yeah, they're very water intensive. And so when you live in the desert, it is very tough to keep them in enough water to keep them comfortable.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
I've
Really
had a
good
few
point.
rabbit breeds. We've had some rabbit breeds that we've ultimately got rid of because of poor heat tolerance or poor cold tolerance for that same reason. Just doesn't work in our environment.
We've had chicken breeds the same way that were
Yep.
very beautiful birds with very great combs that when it gets to 15 degrees, they freeze and frostbite. And before long, it's just a knurled
Yeah.
comb on the top that's just black because it's burned all the tissue basically because of cold.
Wow.
Yeah. Some
So-
breeds just don't.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people forget that a lot of chickens are Mediterranean and Asian, have, you know, kind of more tropical origins. So when you try and move them to the desert when it's 3 feet of snow, not every breed takes to that very well.
Right.
Yeah, we found out coonies are just way too much fat than meat. So
Yeah.
I mean, took all that time to raise them, and then
Yeah.
Interesting. How about you, Amy? You have anything?
I don't think so. We haven't found any of the animals yet. Well, yes. Okay. Horses are more trouble than they're worth.
Oh,
Depends
yes.
on who's asking this family, but that is my opinion right now. Horses are more trouble than they're worth, except for they are my daughter's living joy. So, I mean, what are you going to do? If that's the passion that God's given your kid, sure not mine, though.
what about the worms?
Yeah, you get the worms, Amy.
I'm not ready to give up on my mealworms yet. I think that it's really on me and learning curve and just getting the right setup. I'm not ready to give up my naughty beetles yet.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what you do so I can start mine.
I know.
Yeah, we're all sitting back. It's like, let's let Amy make all the mistakes first, then we'll do our own mealworms.
Well, I did that with the pigs with you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm making plenty of mistakes with the pigs over here. Jeez.
I'll
And
agree
I'm
that
not laughing at you either.
the mealworms are a learning curve. I'm doing them too. I started last year. You're not alone. It's a learning curve. They make it look so easy on YouTube.
I know, not fair.
So what are some of the troubles you're having?
My thing is, like, I'll get a colony going pretty well, and then apparently I'm not turning them over fast enough, so I'll go in there and most of my beetles will be dead, and then I've got to go right back through the process again. So when that happens and you don't have worms to feed because you're growing them out to be all the way to the beetle stage.
Yeah.
And where I've had them, they didn't like the winter. Like, they weren't getting warm enough because the beetles really like about 80 degrees. And I couldn't keep them warm enough through the winter to get good growth and good hatching. So I'm going to move them this winter and see if that helps.
All right. I started out with my first, 3-drawer system, and I used hot glue to put the screen. So, the beetle's eggs will fall through to the second drawer. I used hot glue to seal the screen in there. It doesn't last. So, and I think my naughty beetles, so one edge had peeled up and all my naughty beetles have gone down into the second drawer. So I went and got a whole new thing, and I got a wider one because I have like a lot of beetles right now. So I thought, it may be bigger. And I think I probably made the wrong choice on the glue that I bought this time.
Oh.
So, we'll figure it out.
I have yet to see what your setup is, and I can't wait to come over and see see the worms you're doing. Sounds like it's been kind of fun, but a nightmare at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just not ready to give up on it yet.
So instead of using glue, could you possibly just use wood, 2 pieces of wood together?
And screw it?
Yeah.
What do you do, Nikki?
I won't lie, I've got a much lazier thing. So I bought my first setup from a gal in California that was raising them in aquarium tanks. And so all life stages are just in together. Just keep your bedding a little thicker. And every now and then I go in and I pull all my beetles out, move it to a different container, and let the worms grow up a little bit. So I've got like two tanks and then a couple of shoe boxes if I'm growing out pupa. But yeah, that whole bin thing looked really neat. But you're not the first person I've heard that's had that kind of problem either.
Yeah.
So aquariums, they're cheap, they're $20. They're all together and it's easier.
We have an extra aquarium. I just might go with that. And so your beetles aren't eating your baby worms when they're really tiny and they're not eating their eggs?
No, I'm not having any problem with that. It's just I was having trouble with them just not breeding because it was too cold.
Yeah.
But they've been doing fine this year and they're all in together. The thing that the lady that I got mine from said is you'll know when you're having problems when you start hatching beetles that look kind of malformed. that means that you're not feeding them often enough. And so they're feeding on the smaller life stages. But if your beetles are all coming out looking good, you don't have a problem. You're feeding enough and they'll leave the other life stages alone.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I think I just might give up on my 3-drawer system because it's very Pinteresty. You go on, again with this Instagram homesteading.
It can be deceiving.
I'm just gonna dump them all in the aquarium.
There you go.
I can see now your next Instagram. We've got worms.
We want pictures.
I say we're
Amy,
gonna.
we did a video. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and the whole thing about it is how dangerous the internet is to new homesteaders.
Yeah,
isn't that true?
Because you only see the pretty stuff on Instagram. So I don't know if anybody reads Joel Salatin, but in one of Joel's books, he talks about the fact that he had interns out one year, and possums had gotten into one of the chicken tractors and killed a bunch of the young chickens. And he had interns basically out in the field having this breakdown because they didn't believe this ever happens because they never saw it online or in the magazines. So homesteading is real and it's brutal. And I think sometimes we're all guilty of it. I mean, us included. Mm-hmm. We don't show enough of the bad stuff. So I think sometimes people come into this with really poor expectations of what it's going to be. So when you have problems like your screen's falling out of your mealworm thing, you start thinking it's got to be me and not, hey, maybe everybody's having this problem and it's only the successful people that I'm seeing on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
It really is.
We've done some videos that have gotten some pretty good reaction, but I can remember a video that Nikki did. She just set up a camera and basically talked to the camera for like 20 minutes. It was right up by the hoop one.
When I was having the nervous breakdown?
When she basically, I mean, it was like a nervous breakdown. I mean, we had it was a summer of failure.
Yeah, I had nothing but problems with squirrels in my garden and all this stuff. And I was amazed by the reaction of people. Like what I expected to come out of that was people coming in saying, well, you're just not doing this right or this right. And the number of people that came in and said, this is so refreshing to see something real that we're not the only ones failing. You guys are having trouble too. And we'd already been here 5 years probably.
Yeah, about that.
And had homesteaded at the last house. And I grew up on a farm. But look, sometimes everything goes bad. And I think sometimes we owe it to the people around us to say, I have problems too. I've been doing this a long time and I still have problems.
Yeah.
I still lose a goat kid every now and then, no matter how hard you try. And, things still go awry.
I mean, we had last year, we had trouble with our batteries. Basically, we're at the end of their life. And because of the pandemic, it took us weeks to get new batteries just because they weren't available. There was one manufacturer that we really wanted their batteries, and I think it took us like 5 weeks to get the batteries in from the manufacturer and the distributor. And it was tough. It was a tough 5 weeks trying to nurse along a solar system on our setup. And it was, I probably complained about it on every video we made that I'm still fighting with solar. And it wasn't like it got better. Every day it was getting worse.
Right. It was dying.
It was a slow, staggering death. Yeah. And so we very much focus as best we can with some discretion, but everything we do around here is as real as we can make it to a certain point. But a lot of it, we have a lot of people like friends that come over for the first time here that they've watched content, or even Nikki's parents that live 30 miles away from us. They'll watch all of our videos for a while, and then we don't see them for a couple months because they're busy, and they come over and they go, wow, we didn't realize this was like that. But we get a lot of people that will come over to the farm, and until you're here immersed in it and can do a 360 and really look at how the scale is, nobody really understands how real it is and how big and whatever else it is, I guess.
Well, I think this goes back to why we have so many problems getting people to want to come out here and work, is because they go, well, how hard can it be? And then they get out here and they're like, oh my God, this really is a 14-hour day. And, you know,
Wow.
anyway, you ran off a little bit. But.
So I have a question for you, Nikki. So Rob and I both had this problem this year with our cucumbers. Did you have any problems growing yours? Ours has all kinds of beautiful flowers, green leaves, no fruit.
I've had my own fruiting problems this year for whatever reason. We've noticed if you're not getting fruit, you're not getting pollinated usually. So you have to look at what your pollination system is. Like, what does your bees look like? Bees everywhere in Central and Southern Oregon were down this year. Like we had less bees than normal. So you can get Bloom Set. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bloom Set spray. It's like a pheromone type thing. You can spray it on the blossoms and it will help. Some of it's erratic temperature, but a lot of times it's just going to come down to the fact that they're not getting pollinated.
Yeah,
because I had the same problem. Yeah,
I tried Rob's trick with the Q-tip and the paintbrush, and just to get him to self-pollinate. Nothing, just more flowers.
Yeah, no, I had some of the same problems. My bee population was way down this year, so that is one thing that we're going to focus on next year. I'm probably going to bring in some leafcutter and mason bees and try to up our bee population because, they're telling us that pollinators are tanking nationwide, really worldwide. But this is the first year that I really saw a lot of that because we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So our bee population tends to be pretty good. And it was dismal this year. We got very poor pollination on everything. I've been out hand pollinating my tomato plants. So it's been bad everywhere.
Wow.
Okay.
It sounds like our concerns are wider than just you and I.
Yeah.
Even in my hydroponics, I kind of expected the problem because I don't let a lot of insects into our greenhouse. But I did much better in my conventional gardens. They did all right, but I think I have an area that actually I must have bees or something nearby because I just killed it. But when you get to the yard, it seems like we're having pollination problems for sure. And I have checked into that kind of what do you call those bees you were talking about? They're not honeybees, but they're mason bees.
Yeah, mason bees and leafcutter bees are the two really kind of native bee populations.
Yeah, so I noticed that you can get kits that you can set up in your yard with like the little straws kind of things in them that are good for the mason bees, I believe. So that's something me and Sherry were considering putting some along the fence line. But we actually had a really good year along our front, but it's our back where I'd like to have more of those, more pollination thing. I'm almost tempted to put one in my greenhouse.
So when you bring your bees in, do you have the boxes too, or you just let them loose?
No, mason bees and leafcutter bees are solitary bees. So you can do the little houses with the little bamboo rods in them, and they'll kind of set up in there. But when you buy them, they actually sell them to you with the pupa in the little bamboo tubes. And they've got instructions in there, and they tell you kind of how to situate where to put them. And you put them within like 150 yards of whatever it is that you're trying to pollinate in certain lighting conditions on certain sides of buildings. And yeah, they kind of do their own thing. They don't nest up. They don't do honey. They don't do any of that. Their sole job is to pollinate.
Yeah. So if you go to Wilco, you can see the little kits. Go in the little bee section, and they're just like birdhouses, but they come with the little kits with these little straws. And I've been looking at those too. I just haven't gotten brave enough to do it yet, but I think I'm going to get a little bit more serious about doing it next year.
Yeah,
me too. Very simple. Very simple.
Yeah, I'm going to too. I'm a first-time gardener ever. And yeah, I started late. We went on vacation, so I started late, and I thought, well, maybe they'll just come on late. Nope.
Well, it's because you left the homestead. You're supposed to be there 24/7 and never leave.
I knew that was coming, you jealous baby.
I am so jealous. They went camping a couple times this year. It's like, I am so jealous. It's like, I've got to do that. Just drop everything and let everything die.
No, it's put the farm in auto.
Yeah. So next year, that's probably my next year's goal. So we didn't have much time, but one of the main things is, what are some of the biggest changes that you guys are planning for, since I only got 5 minutes left, for next year that you think is something important you want to change for next year? We'll start off with our guests. So what's one of your biggest things you want to change for next year?
Probably finishing fencing. We've only really got fencing on the main 20 acres. I'd like to get the other 80 acres fenced so I can get my goats moved out there and try and utilize that a little bit better.
That's a lot
Yeah,
of
I
fencing.
think there's a couple things I want to do out in the barns. Is we've run electrical up to the barns when we did that originally about 8 years ago.
But
And
never finished.
We just never finished. We just never put in light fixtures and everything else. So that would be pretty awesome to finally have some lights in the barn rather than work on headlamps or, cell phone lights as I'm doing now.
Gotcha. How about you, John and Debbie?
Water.
Big things for next year. What is it?
Of course, the water. We want to run water out to the paddocks. The other thing I would like to do is get another barn
/ greenhouse.
for just the hay.
Gotcha. And moving right along, I got to keep it scooting here because we're running out of time. Amy, what's your big changes for next year?
We're gonna put that gate in to make it not have to run around all the way around the house to the barn. Because I want more goats next year. My baby goats are gonna have babies next year, and so I just really like the idea about being able to go right out the back door into the barn. What kind of goats do you guys have, Nikki and Kanan? What kind do you goats?
We do Nigerians, we do Nubians, and I do Kinders.
Okay, I do
3 breeds.
What's the kind of goats you got? The 2 goats you have now?
La Mancha. They're actually a La Mancha cross, but yes.
Cool. You guys have a lot in common.
I know.
Except the 8 years.
Yeah, but everybody starts somewhere.
Yep.
Everybody starts somewhere.
I think for us, really quick, I know I mentioned is that we're going to drop some of our hydroponics, not because we don't enjoy doing it. It's just too much. And forgive me, my wife just pulled in and my dog's telling me, I don't know if you can hear a dog, but hydroponics we're going to reduce on, and doing a better and getting things rebuilt for furrowing for the pigs. Only because we didn't know what to expect, and it was crazy and chaotic, and then we want to make that better. I'm sure it'll still be crazy and chaotic, but we want to do better. So anyway, we're getting towards we are at the end here. But I want to take the time to thank Spike River Homestead. You guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love to have you on some more, because I'm finding that we have a lot more in common, especially with this show, that maybe every once in a while we just bring you back on and compare notes and then talk about our improvements, talk about our new ideas, all that kind of stuff, because you guys are kind of warriors. You've kind of been there already, so we kind of appreciate that.
Really good ideas. Yes, thank you.
It's been great.
And anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up here. For the people who are on the show right here, just hang on. We'll get through the ending here. And anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank our hosts, Amy and John and Debbie, and of course our the Spring River Homestead. All these people. See, you guys have your own website and YouTube channel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Amy,
we're on
you've got your
Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube mostly. Is probably our big 3.
Okay, and everything's under Sprague River Homestead, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. And then Amy, you got a YouTube channel. Check her out. She's got some cute stuff. You just had your kids on there with the horses.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to wrap it up here, though. Guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye now. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos. all over the whole wide world. Thanks.